So, yeah, we just have just a few minutes this morning, but Hans and I were talking about police and how there's a lot of police in the States resigning now and how police morale is low. And we were telling a few stories about police, and one story I just mentioned, I didn't really tell it, but this guy who I was, back in the day I used to work with drug addicts and ex-cons, and I had a landscaping business, and the guys I could find who would work hard were guys who didn't have other options. So they were, and I wanted to hire Americans because everyone else was hiring illegal immigrants. And these guys were very cheap, but they didn't speak any English, and they were always new people every time you pick them up. So I was working in these high-end neighborhoods, and I wanted my competitive strategy to be that they see the same guys, and the guys can speak English, and like that was going to be our thing. Well, the only guys who could handle the work and who would keep showing up were guys who were either ex-cons or drug addicts. And so, of course, many of these guys had...
or current cons.
Many of these guys had problems with the police in their past, present, and the future. And I had a bunch of issues myself with police, especially back then. And this one guy who... I won't go into the full story. I think it's a great story, but I fired him, and a year later, he had 2 strikes against him, so he'd already been to prison twice for dealing drugs. And in Texas, it's the 3 strikes and you're out rule. So if he knows if he gets in trouble one more time, he's going to prison for 25 years, mandatory. Like, that's it, no other options. 25 years mandatory. And so this police officer pulls him over in Austin. This was in a park in Austin, Texas. And, Alan Padron was the guy's name that worked for me. He knows he's got drugs in the car, and he's got cocaine in the car. And he knows that this is his only chance to stay out of prison, is to get away from this officer. And he pulls out his gun, and black officer, he pulls out his gun and shoots him in the chest. kills the police officer. And then this guy who worked for me, almost said my friend, but he escapes. This is a bad dude. He escapes down to Houston, runs from the cops, and pulls over on the side of the highway, runs across the highway, kneels down on one knee, puts his gun in his mouth, and blows his brains out. And but I just was going to talk about like that black police officer who pulls him over. He police do this all the time. They have to show up and interact with people. They don't know who they are. They don't know if they have a weapon. They don't know if they're on drugs. They don't know what they're dealing with. And they constantly put themselves in harm's way. And, while I have many issues with police, overstepping my rights, overstepping their authority, I think most of the time I and other people have no idea the fear that they face on a daily basis, putting themselves in harm's way. And I was, I don't think I ever got, I began to get a picture of this the night I drove across Uganda with 2 cops I had paid to come and apprehend a criminal in Western Uganda. And so I'm driving through the night with these 2 undercover cops with weapons into enemy territory, And I remember we were hiding out in the morning because if the people in town see that there's a white guy in the car, it's good. News of this is going to pass the town like so fast. These guys are probably going to go running and we'll never catch them. We'll never get our vehicle back. And I just remember, just my heart racing, And then they dropped me off at this hotel so they could go apprehend him without anyone seeing me. And I'm in this hotel, I'm looking out the window, my heart's racing, and I imagine that these guys are going to confront these guys. And and that whole day, and we apprehend them and we take them down to the jail. And I was like, man, like this level of adrenaline and stuff and fear that it's just part of the job for them every day. And I think most of us have no clue.
As we go into this debate about, how can we make things better, it's good to walk the shoes either side of the divide,
walk in the shoes of both sides.
Yes.
What's it like for people who are have good reason to suspect that the cops are going to violate your rights, and I feel very strongly about this. You don't have to be black to experience a lot of harassment by the police and be endangered by the police. You don't have to be black. You don't have to be brown. You don't have to be a minority. It's enough to be fit into that kind of the category of looking like someone who might be up to no good. I used to have a shaved. Well, I still have a shaved head, but a shaved head.
And it was voluntary.
Yeah, and I was an intense looking dude, and I didn't bow to no one. I held my head up high. I probably looked like a skinhead, to a lot of people. I wasn't, but I was an intense, and I was not bowing to no one, and I wasn't gonna apologize. I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna, but it was much more intense back then. And so, cop pulls me over, and he can very well, think I'm, up to no good. I wasn't gonna give any undue politeness or kind of being extra friendly or being submissive in any kind of a way. And so I had all kinds of run-ins with police, all kinds of them violating me, my property, my personhood, and I've, as I was telling you, I had a good friend, defenseless friend murdered by the cops. He was a white guy, shot 14 times. And so I really don't think it's an issue of race as it's an issue of authority that we have in America. One, we have issues against authority in the States. Yes. So there's a lot of us that already we have, we don't like authority. And the other side, all these movies about, good guys, bad guys, and we got all these cops who are thinking themselves as like the good guys. If you don't immediately obey, if you run from them, if you whatever, instantly, okay, they're the hero, good guy cop, and you're the bad guy, and they're just like ready. They're ready for the.
Everyone contributes to the escalation.
Yes, everyone contributes to the escalation. Yes, you could say that.
I like the story though that you told about that one police before when you said this was the time when it was like at the height around 2000 and everyone was tense, and police pulled you over. He said, roll down your window, and you rolled it down this much. She's gonna want to stand up, roll out your window. And you said, it's enough like this. You have enough, And the guy goes, come on, man, roll down your window.
Yeah, I was really expecting, these aggressive cops. This was Austin in the late 90s. And Alex Jones was on the local radio. And there were a bunch of confrontations going on with cops back then. And it wasn't like a race issue like these that are, like a lot of these guys were white, and the cops were busting in their windshields and dragging them through the windshields, and this was going on a lot back then, and people were standing up for their rights, and I was very much involved in this kind of a movement back then, and so this one particular occasion I go to, I'm going to stand up for my rights, and I'm not going to give in, and I'm not going to, whatever, and I go to, You know, I got to confront this guy and stand up for my rights.
Bracing himself.
And he totally just de-escalates, and he's like the coolest guy. And I get out of the car, we have a chat, and we're like buddies and stuff. But it was the opposite of what I expect. And yeah, so there's absolutely some cool cops and some cops who do de-escalate. But in the States, you know, it's it's very much not true that like what are Americans much more racist than the rest of the world? No, but interactions with cops involve far more deaths in the U.S. than the rest of the world, than the rest of the what do I want to say, first world, so to speak. And it's a cultural thing.
You could say
it's
this.
How
can we change the culture of escalation? You know, because I think that's what's going on, or that's a great way to look at it and try to find a solution. You know, what can you do to de-escalate? What can the police do to de-escalate?
Yes, and I personally, when people say, well, of course this guy got manhandled by the cops because he didn't just obey everything that they said. He didn't just submit. He didn't just, you know. I hate that response, because if you're being disrespected by them, you know, to me they're overstepping their bounds, you know, as police, and they're the servants, you know. So
yeah, that's a good idea. That's going to de-escalate what you just said.
Yes, it's definitely.
They're wrong.
You definitely have both sides, you know. The moment that you stand up and they're feeling like, you know, how dare you disrespect me? I'm the law. I'm the good guy. I'm the authority. When you have two who will not de-escalate, that's when it when it escalates, right? Okay. But anyway, police face a lot every day, and yeah, it's a challenging situation we have. Lots of cops apparently resigning in protest or quitting their jobs because they're no longer honored for their role. And yeah, I just hope good things come from it. So we've got Stefan watching. Who else is out there? Who's that black and white image? I can't tell. But Hans, we gotta go. We have another call coming up. But just say howdy to y'all. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah, announce in
back tomorrow.
4 hours from now.
Oh yeah, 4 hours from now we have a part 2 of our webinar about writing honor letters to honor our fathers. Father's Day is coming up, and if you guys want to engage with us, join our Honoring Fathers Facebook group. We'll be going live in 4 hours.